Hello and welcome to ZeroPoint Energy, with a 0 point what we talk about and just as much energy. I'm Sean.
And this is Jorge.
And today we're being very topical. We're talking about being under the sea.
Under the sea. No, not not that one. Just, yeah.
It's still a Disney movie.
It's not a Disney movie. It's a Fox movie.
Disney owns Fox.
Yeah, and white people used to own black people. That don't mean nothing.
Doesn't it though?
Yeah. Okay, fine then. Kelsey Grammer is now a Disney princess.
He is.
I was kidding.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Rob Schneider definitely is.
I don't even want to think about that. Oh, God, no. No offense to Rob Schneider, but no, God, no.
Could you imagine a Disney-produced Deuce Bigelow movie?
I could, through Miramax, but no.
No, we are talking about the 1996 comedy kind of masterpiece. It's a good movie. It's definitely worth watching. Down Periscope.
It could have been better. It could have, but it was really good for what it is.
It's just fun. It's a military movie where they're trying not to make the military look bad because the Department of the Department of Defense actually greenlit this movie.
Okay, so we've seen Stripes. We've seen this. Have we seen any other Army movies? Because Stripes kind of goes up there with the whole...
we did Top Gun. Top Gun led to massive levels of recruitment for the Navy and the Air Force.
No. I'm talking about comedy specifically. Because, this doesn't make the Navy look like shit. If anything, it makes them look inventive as fuck.
No, we only watched Stripes in this as far as the comedy movies. I've seen a bunch of them, like Sergeant Bilko from the 90s with, I just spaced on his name.
Martin.
Yeah, Steve Martin. That's a good one. That shows the incompetency of the military. That one's good. Good Morning Vietnam is not meant to be a funny movie, but it is funny-ish.
It is. Robin Williams in his element is always just funny. Legitimately, even parts of 1 Hour Photo? No.
1 Hour Photo has some legit jokes in it, despite being a very serious movie about a stalker.
Agreed. But, again, parts of it are funny. I'm not sure if they're meant to be, but at the same time, Robin Williams, funny, but as well as his drama is on point always.
Yeah, well, Bicentennial Man.
Very true.
Which most people will say is a shitty movie, but I think it's actually decent, and it's a good show of the range of Robin Williams. Patch Adams, Good Will Hunting.
What's the other one? What Dreams May Come?
What Dreams May Come. Those are
serious
movies that have comedy elements to them, and the comedy is on point. The seriousness is serious.
Agreed.
This is not one of those movies. This is comedy all the way. This is dumb slapstick in most instances of the comedy, and it's fun. It's great.
Agreed.
But the reason we say it's topical is we will get to it later. It's currently June of 2023, and it is immediately after we have found out that the group of billionaires basically sealed themselves into a metal tube, got kicked into the bottom of the ocean near the Titanic, and got liquefied.
Yeah. Okay, they got smushed and then liquefied. Yes, admittedly. And we're trying to be okay. Fuck it. We're not trying to be serious at all. It is kind of funny. I'm sorry. You people have seen all the memes and the jokes that have been happening on Twist.
Now we will say it is sad. There's a loss of human life. 5 people did die, and what is arguably a horrific way to die.
Arguably.
But, yeah.
Bruh.
Yeah, there are worse ways to go. They could have slowly suffocated to death.
Okay, hear me out, okay? Personally, I would have preferred to have been somewhat conscious at that point so that I can see, okay, this is the end. It will be kind of painful. I will have the, what are they called? The shakes for a bit and then die.
Well, there's also the hallucinations, the slow asphyxiation on your own breath, and the fact that other people around you are the reason you're suffocating.
Yeah.
You will hit all those levels of realization before you pass out, and then you will slowly die in your sleep.
Yeah, I'd still prefer it.
Over the, oh my god, we're going up.
Okay, you've never been squished. You don't know if you actually have any cognizance of pain, and then nothing.
Oh, well, I'm sure they would have noticed the walls of the submarine getting much closer before there's enough of a leak to let the pressure from outside inside, and the air turning into a bomb, accelerating the temperature inside to twice that of the surface of the sun, instantly boiling the blood in their bodies before they exploded from the pressure wave created by the oxygen.
Yeah, see, that sounds a hell of a lot more painful than, okay, I'm suffocating.
Yeah, it's
Fuck,
painful, but all of that happens in milliseconds versus hours of slowly gagging on your own breath.
Fine, okay.
Like, we've both had COVID. You had the breathing issue part of COVID. Imagine that feeling constantly until you died.
Okay, again, like you said, I had COVID. I had that experience for an entire week, probably more.
Yeah, but did it keep getting more and more intense every hour?
No. But
That's
no.
what suffocation is.
The first day it did, and then it stayed the same for the rest.
Yeah. Now imagine if it got more intense and more intense and more intense and more intense until you passed out, and then you never woke up.
And this is why cyanide pills should be given out to everybody. Okay, that's a really hot take, but I kind of stand by it.
And also a good example of this is what happens when billionaires, because they have money, get to flaunt safety protocols. Because us normal people, if we're in a car, which is, a giant rolling roll cage that's meant to protect us, we have to wear a seatbelt. We have 8 airbags surrounding us. There are crumple zones on the car. The tires are designed to also shift slightly so that they also absorb some of the impact. There are laws that make it so we can't hurt ourselves on accident in our cars. It has to be an intentional thing. But if you have enough money, fuck the law.
First of all, I agree, yes, but at the same time, things change slowly. I remember seeing videos on YouTube about the change from you can drink in your car to you can't drink in your car. People were like, it's un-American. This isn't shit that should be done. And yeah, it's led to a lot more safety. Like, I understand that, but at the same time, when things change slowly like that, it makes you wonder. Gun control, probably not a good thing.
Probably not, because it has been a slow change, and they're just making guns harder and harder for people to follow the law. At least with car safety, it's pretty easy to follow the law because the people who make the car are responsible for it.
True.
I can buy a car that did not have seatbelts, that was made in the 60s or the 50s. As long as I register it as an antique vehicle, I am not responsible for adding seatbelts or airbags to that car because it was never meant to have them. If I don't, then I'm legally obligated to retrofit it.
I thought that wasn't a thing. You were legally obligated to retrofit if it's not an antique anymore?
If you don't register it as an antique car, then if you want to be a daily driver, you have to at least put the bare minimum safety standard in it. So You're required to put a seatbelt in, at least.
All right. A couple years ago, I had a 1979 Bonneville Brougham. It was a ugly color. I liked it, but whatever. The point is, though, that car had seatbelts. I'm pretty sure it did not have airbags, though.
It had driver's side airbags. It did not have passenger side airbags.
Okay, that explains some. So then, technically, was it road legal, or I should have?
No, it was perfectly road legal because it was made when it was optional for the manufacturers to include a 3-point seatbelt and an airbag. Like, it was optional until like the 80s.
Ah.
And then it was optional that you had to wear it until the 90s.
That I didn't know. Wow.
Yeah, the whole click it or ticket thing, like when that campaign started in the mid 90s, that was when it became a law that you must wear a seatbelt in a car. Which means, like, I was born in the 80s. I was born before seatbelts were required by law to be built into cars, and before it was required by law for you to wear one while you're in the goddamn thing.
If I remember correctly, Volvo is the first car manufacturer that actually made seatbelts, and then they didn't actually make it like licensing the patent or anything. They're just like, this saves lives. Use it, people.
Yeah, they weren't the first one to make the seatbelts because one of the Rolls-Royce, they had them because they were making airplanes. But I think Volvo was the first company to just like, yeah, we're just going to put them in all of our cars. Like, no one told them they had to. They just decided to do it.
Okay, at least the lap and shoulder belt. That was introduced by Volvo.
Yeah, that's the 3-point seatbelt.
Yep.
Yeah, so they pioneered that, and they just started, like, no one told them they had to put those in cars. They're just like, well, pilots fly things designed like cars, and they have to wear a 5-point harness. We should give people at least that much safety in a car, so they developed the 3-point harness.
Okay, I can imagine 4. You know what? No. Back to the movie. Okay. We're going to have tangents, but we're going to move back to the movie.
So, Down Periscope is a interesting story about a commander who has been passed over multiple times because
twice.
His personal track record is that of a fuck up in general. So they keep passing him over for command, and he's hitting that age where if he doesn't take a command of a vessel, he's going to be basically forced into his desk job.
There's nothing wrong with being a desk jockey.
Yes, there is.
Shut
up. So they give him one last chance, but because he's a general screw up, and mostly because one of the comedy points that they keep drilling into you over and over again in the movie is that he got drunk one night and he had the words "Welcome aboard" tattooed onto his penis.
Now, what you don't find out till later is the reason he has that is because he got really drunk after one particular screw up he calls the Murmansk incident.
Yeah, that is the incident where he intentionally sideswiped his submarine against a Russian submarine. So they brushed against each other underwater.
Yeah. He got chewed out pretty bad for that. He got drunk to get over it, and then he woke up with "Welcome aboard" on his penis.
Yes.
Honestly, I've got to say, it's actually a pretty good idea. It's stupid, but it's fun. I like it.
Yeah, and it's dumb, but it's funny. So because of that, they gave him this one last chance. So they come up with this hypothetical situation because Russia had been selling off its old diesel submarines as surplus. So in the movie, the U.S. decided, well, we should plan for what if a rogue state, what if a terrorist group bought one of those diesel subs? Could a diesel sub piloted by a competent crew and captain successfully infiltrate a port in the U.S. and take out targets, going against the might of the U.S. nuclear navy?
One thing, though. The thing there, he said competent. This entire movie has incompetence.
Yes. The whole theory of the exercise is we got a competent captain in charge of a competent crew with a well-maintained diesel submarine from the 50s and 60s. So what they did was they gave an incompetent captain the most incompetent crew of fuck-ups to ever fuck up in all of the history of fucking themselves. put them on a rusted piece of shit that is lucky to be able to float, and then say, good to fucking luck.
One thing, though. Okay. Probably everybody knows that traditionally women are not supposed to be on boats, and that means any boat or, what do you call it? A submarine. Now,
in the 90s, there was a thing the Navy was testing putting women on aircraft carriers and submarines.
Okay,
still kind of a no-go for submarines because you're stuck in a tin can for many, many months.
Yes, I was going to say, as far as I knew, women were not allowed on submarines, period. But according to Sean, they were allowed from like 97 to 2001.
I mean, I still think they're not really crew on submarines, but there's no rule anymore that says they can't serve on them.
Okay, but again, probably not a good idea because a lot of men, tin can, and the R word.
Yeah,
grape.
The Navy had a very, very big issue with that when women started serving in aircraft carriers, and that's 1,000 men with 5 women, and you're at sea for 6 months at a time.
So yeah, it's probably even worse on submarines, but I actually did not hear about the air carrier one. Fuck.
Oh yeah, that's actually the more famous of them. They've actually made lots of movies about those particular instances.
Okay, we know what we're doing next week.
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay. Specifically, what's it called? The submarine that they had to clean up and make work on this. Oh, no, wait. Back to the women. So, specifically, I wanted to mention that we saw all the fuck-ups in here. But, what was her name? Lauren Holly in this?
Lauren Holly plays Emily Lake, who is the actual only truly competent naval officer in this entire movie.
So, my question is, okay, the guy who's trying to fuck Tom Dodge or Kelsey Grammer in this is Rear Admiral Yancey Graham. What the fuck did Lake do to hurt him in order to get on Dodge's boat?
She's a woman in the Navy.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, fuck.
He's an old man of the military. Like, women shouldn't serve in these frontline positions, especially submarines in the early 90s, so post-Cold War, when we're still not friendly with the Soviet Union. Yeah, it's a thing. I mean, it's still a thing. So yeah, it's just a thing still. Sometimes you get those older people, those old men who think military should stay a boys' club, who don't think that women should serve or don't think that women should be in charge, when really some of the most accomplished majors, captains, admirals, and stuff that we have currently in the U.S. military are women.
No, I agree definitely. I mean, but in all seriousness, the rape issue is definitely...
It is also still a major problem that plagues the military. And yeah, it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing for probably a long time to come. Even a few years ago, they had that case of the female soldier who went missing. And she did not go missing. They hid the fact that a fellow soldier raped, tortured, and killed her.
And then they found her in the closet, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was a bad situation. It's unfortunate. One of the parts of the U.S. military. It's weird to speak badly of the military, especially the U.S. military. I've always been a fan of them for years. But I also understand that, yeah, they might be one of the best funded, biggest militaries on the planet, but they're still a bunch of human beings, and humanity is the flaw of the human race.
Unfortunately. I mean, what do you call it? We laud humanity, the word itself, to be, what do you call it? Sincere, honest, kind, shit, all the good shit. But at the same time, we never also look at our own shadow in those terms.
Yeah, we forget that humans are also the ones who rape, murder, pillage, steal, hurt children, just hurt people for the sadistic joy is hurting people. Like, those people exist everywhere. Those aren't outliers of human society. They seem to be the norm in some instances.
Very true. I mean, it's a lot easier to do that, to destroy, and then take, rather than try to build and try to do more, try to be more.
Yes.
I mean, like you said, there are definitely a lot of decorated female people who have done great things. I can only think of two off the top of my head. One of them was I want to say 3-star general. I forgot her name. She was a blonde. I forgot her name. Shit. Okay. I forgot. Do you know?
I will admit I can't think of names off the top of my head, but I've seen a lot of interviews. One was a Air Force pilot. She was an A-10 pilot who literally went through hell of an experience flying in the I can't remember if it was the first Iraq War or the more recent one in the 2010s. But they were flying close air support for a group and had no choice but to fly directly into ground fire. And her plane took catastrophic hits. And if she was in any other aircraft but an A-10, she would never have made it back to base. And even getting it back to base was like, holy fuck, you should be dead. Like, even the A-10 should not have been able to handle the amount of damage she brought it home with. And, you know, as a woman, yeah, it's physically, genetically, they are slightly weaker in terms of physical strength than their male counterparts. She had to switch from the fly-by-wire system that the A-10 has to the redundant backup mechanical systems to fly the plane, which means you're not gently moving the control stick to move systems. You are full muscle into these things. Throw your body weight into it to make a simple basic turn. And she had to fly like that for hours to get back to base.
Jesus Christ.
Like, her story, you can find it. There's a bunch of YouTube videos of it. Black Rifle Coffee, which is a veteran-owned coffee company, they have a nice little 10, 15-minute mini doc where they just let her tell her story. Because she also wrote a book about it. So they kind of just let her just make a little video talking about it. And yeah, she talked about it, and like it even chokes her up to think about it, you know, almost a decade later, that she was able to do this. And like, I think she's a major now in the Air Force. She's still current military, but you know, that's an extreme achievement for any pilot. And you know, she's a woman who most people thought shouldn't even be flying the A-10 as a platform because it's a fighter craft. So yeah, I feel bad that I can't remember her name because I literally just watched her video about it again recently. It just popped into my head her name. She is Colonel Kim Nicole Reed Campbell. She is currently a retired Air Force pilot. And yeah, in southern Iraq, in 2003 during Iraqi freedom, her A-10 took artillery hits, and she was able to pilot it back to base after completing her mission. So she still took out the ground target she was meant to take out, and returned to base.
Damn. I mean, the A-10 is one hell of a plane, but she must also be one hell of a pilot.
Yes, it's one of those just amazing things. I don't know what else to say about that.
Okay, I mean, we salute her for her service, and we definitely thank her.
Yes.
Now, back to the movie.
So Lieutenant Commander Dodge was literally, like I said, he's a fuck up. He's semi-competent in terms of his capabilities. He just keeps getting passed over because of this one mistake he made in his past.
And Yancey can't let the fucker go.
No. So they keep basically screwing him over because he made a dumb mistake with a younger officer. So, like you said, to make it up to him, they screw him over. They gave him literally a guy who's a criminal. Like, he had to be escorted by MPs just to report for duty. Who is an admiral's son. So the only reason he's not serving time is because the admiral's pulling strings. There's a radio operator, the electrician Nitro, who, that's his birth name, that's his given Christian name, is Nitro. And he has absorbed a lot of Voltrons. Like,
yes.
He literally electrocutes himself almost constantly. And there's a great scene towards the end of the movie where the one time he puts on any amount of shock protection, hit one switch, and it's the only thing that doesn't short out and electrocute him.
Literally, he doesn't even have enough wire to connect shit, so he makes himself a part of the circuit on purpose.
Yes. And then we have
Sonar.
Yes.
Oh, I
the
forgot his
sonar
name.
operator named Sonar, who has hearing so sensitive he can hear people whispering from several yards away, and while underwater, actually able to hear when another someone on the crew of a different submarine dropped 2 dimes and a quarter out of their pocket, he could tell exactly what the change was that hit the ground and how much it was.
This man is fucking amazing. He should not be doing this. He should be in a rock band or some shit. Or a sound engineer. Seriously.
Yes. And he's played by Harlan Williams, who is just a funny man in general. Like, I loved him in the movie Rocket Man, which is another Disney movie. That one was actually produced by Disney. And he plays an incompetent astronaut in that one. Like, Harlan Williams is great at playing incompetency.
He does it really well. I love the fart gag in that movie. That was amazing.
Yeah, so you have, God, what was his name?
Who?
The cook.
Beckman.
Yes,
Oh my God.
Buckman.
Buckman.
Who, when they need to be silent and hide, they're sitting in the bottom of the ocean trying to be stealthy. This man lets out a catastrophic fart. Like, it creates a sound that the sonar operator in the sub that's hunting them goes, it sounded like an explosion. And literally everyone in the submarine is gagging. But that's because they're running silent. They've got everything turned off, so their air scrubbers aren't working at full capacity and everything. And it's just amazing. It's a dumb, fun gag because, you know, it's fart humor. Lowest common denominator, but that's the thing. It's lowest common denominator. It's funny shit.
Now, everybody is trying to make the ship work, and he's just trying to put up with his CO, played by Rob Schneider, Marty Pascal. God damn, this, like, Rob Schneider is a decent actor, but he plays this up so ham and so, like, uptight. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, he's what everybody hates about military officers. He is definitely the academy trained guy who has no actual experience. He's literally only an officer because his mommy and daddy put him through expensive schooling. Yes, I'm begrudging the graduates of Annapolis who go straight to officer training instead of having to work for it.
Bro, okay, I was gonna go to a training academy for the Army. I wasn't gonna go to freaking, what was it, West Point, but I was gonna go to I think it was Phoenix, I think it's called, and I really wanted to go, but again, I was training to be a priest. Okay.
Yeah, I said you could have been a chaplain.
Yeah. Still, I ended up going to St. Ignatius because I really wanted to, and I was still like, I'm gonna be a priest. I'm gonna go, and yeah.
Yeah, you could have. Like I said, you could have been a chaplain, and then, you know, like, rape's already pretty common in the military, so let's throw some children in there too.
I hate you. I fucking hate you.
Hey, I mean, Catholics, children, it's a natural combination.
Moving on. All right. Buckman was played by Kent. Wait, no, I was off Buckman. I was on Rob Schneider.
Yes, you're on Rob Schneider. Although, we have the mechanic, the head mechanic, Howard, played by the great Harry Dean Stanton.
Like, I love this man. I have seen him in so much shit, but he's like so like little pieces, like background type person. You know what I mean?
He's great for background stuff, but he's awesome for being just that dude who's just off in the back with the.
God damn. He was one of the mechanics in Alien too.
He was a mechanic in Alien. He was in Green Mile. Also as a mechanic. He's Toot. He's Bud in Repo Man.
I forgot he was in Repo Man.
He's the main character of Lucky.
Like, I love this man. He can play either straight hard ass or he plays like creepy old man.
Yes. And even in the comedy movie where we need a creepy old man who's also a hard ass. They're like, I got you. What time to sign? I know we have William H. Macy just being William H. Macy.
Yeah, he
plays Captain Knox, and like, think of any role you've seen fucking William H. Macy in, and that is what Captain Knox is. He is such a mix of Frank from Shameless and I'm literally drawing a blank now, and I've seen him in so many movies and TV shows.
Okay, Frank from Shameless, I wouldn't say, just because when he was in Shameless,
it's the inventiveness, it's the creativeness. And I bet he could smuggle a few dozen bottles of tequila in his ass.
Okay, I don't doubt it. But at the same time, though, William H. Macy usually plays the straight-laced, like, really, really moral character, you know? Like,
except for when he was Little Bill in Boogie Nights.
I haven't seen Boogie Nights.
Yeah, it's a good movie about porn stars.
I don't want to see Boogie Nights. I don't mind porn stars, but I don't want to know how they live.
He's also Jerry in Fargo.
Never watched Fargo.
Oh, God.
I've seen a lot of shit, okay? You haven't seen a lot of shit either.
I mean, I haven't seen a lot of shit, but most of what I haven't seen are either foreign or Spanish or modern. I don't watch a lot of new movies.
Okay, you've heard it here, gentlemen. We're going to watch El Presidente next week.
Maybe.
No, we will.
Maybe we'll save it for next Cinco de Mayo.
No, it's a whole year away.
But then we'll dedicate an entire day to recording Spanish product.
No, you know what? You're right. We won't do an entire day. We'll do an entire month. September. All Spanish movies.
I mean, since we only meet once a month, sure, why not?
Shut the fuck up. We're going to do 2 episodes a week in September. We're saying it right now. Probably not, but still.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Now, when we get into the ship, we find out that it is a diesel World War II Baleo class submarine called the USS Stingray, played by the USS Pampanito.
Yep.
They literally have to scrub the entire fucking thing, get rid of the surface dust, give it a new coat of paint, and I found out that they had wooden decks. I really didn't know.
I mean, the decks aren't entirely made of wood, but yes, there is wood decking on top.
Like, I was wondering why they had the pitch and then they have wood. Why do they have wood? It's a submarine. And then Sean explained, and
it was World War II, and you got to build cheaply. There's a steel shortage going on, man.
And a bronze or copper shortage, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because they had to make wires for everything else. Plus ammunition, the casings for ammunition.
Brass.
Yep.
Okay, if anybody watches this, in the comments, what ammo do you actually recommend? Because I've shot steel, I've shot brass, I've shot aluminum. I prefer steel. It's just the better one. But does any ammo actually do good with steel or aluminum? Anybody at all? Like, just let me know. Serious question.
I think it just comes down to the different guns and the different pressures. Like, because your handgun absolutely hated the aluminum jacketed ammunition. Mine took it like a champ.
Yeah.
But, different build. I have a Ruger, you have a Smith & Wesson.
But, like, again, steel. It would shoot, like, 3 steel, and then it could
Jam,
get stuck on the 4th. Jammed.
But that was also manufactured. That was very, very cheap Bulgarian made ammunition.
True.
It was damn near surplus about being surplus. Don't buy Max Tech.
No, Max Tech was a good one. It was the other one. Tech
Max. It's the same one, but it comes in a round plastic container with a white label on it.
Something like that. I forgot. Like, yeah. I don't want to badmouth the ammo if we don't actually remember what it was. That's why.
Yeah, it's just that particular brand with the steel jacket. We got some of that today, the brass jackets, and it ran perfectly fine. The steel and aluminum jacketed ammunition from that, the casings, those were, when they were fired, their casing would expand in a weird way, and it would jam the ejection port.
Unfortunately. Back to the movie. Alright, so they start doing their run, or what would it be, checks on the boat, and yeah, this fucker leaves a lot to be desired.
It leaves everything to be desired. Even food is to be desired in this thing. They found a can of cream corn that expired in 1966.
It wasn't cream corn, it was deviled ham.
Yep.
Apparently it tasted like cream corn.
Yeah, tasted like cream corn. I mean, Buckman ate it. He made sandwiches.
Buckman will eat anything, I swear.
That's why he farted.
No, that's why he farted like he did. His body will process anything. Feed the fucker uranium, you'll turn it into a nuclear sub.
We should start shoveling charcoal into him. Maybe shit out a couple diamonds.
Oh, God. That would be an interesting experiment, but no.
Well, William H. Macy almost smuggled an entire human being in his ass, so...
Do I want to know what you're talking about?
It's like season 2 or 3 of Shameless.
I kind of refuse to watch it. It's a Chicago show, but it makes us look so bad.
Does it, though? Because I think it pretty much accurately portrays a mix of the east side and the south side. No, I'm sorry, west side and south side of Chicago.
Okay, I can't argue with that.
Pretty much all them places the Green Line goes.
I'll take your word for it. I can't argue because I haven't seen it, but...
Well, the British version is just as bad. Like,
really?
It's awesome. Like, I like both. I prefer the British myself. This is not the pretentiousness like people who like The Office. Or the British one is better because it's the original one. No, the American Office is arguably a better show if you're going to watch the entire show. But if you want specific jokes, the British Office has a lot better specific bits. But it's like, cool. I like maybe 20 minutes total of this entire show because I like a few quick bits. Whereas there are entire episodes of the American version of The Office that are fun to watch. Some that are fun to watch because of their place in the story. Some that are fun to watch because they're a bunch of gags.
I mean, there are two different types of humor, though. I mean, I understand British humor because I used to watch, what was it, Mr. Bean, The Vicar of Dibley. That is literally how I learned humor. I was like 3, 4.
Same. I grew up watching PBS, too.
Like, besides them... Oh, and what was that one show? The Old Lady and the Chef.
The Old Lady and the Chef?
Yeah, okay, it was like Vicar of Dibley. It was like an old lady show where she was like a bitch, and she was like...
That's, Keeping Up Appearances.
That's
with the Bucket family, but she always says, no, it's Bouquet. No, it's fucking Bucket. Even the husband's like, yeah, it's Bucket.
And there was the second one with, it wasn't so much a comedy, but it was with a chef who was an African dude.
I can't think of that one.
But then every once in a while, because they didn't always show it because it has such a short run, Something Towers.
Faulty Towers.
That's it. Faulty Towers. I fucking love that one.
Faulty Towers, they played Blackadder for a little bit.
I love Blackadder. Oh,
Who's
God.
Minding the Store?
Wait, which one?
Who's Minding the Store?
Wait, is that the one with the department store?
Yeah.
Yes! Yes! I love the old lady in that one is fucking hilarious.
That's Mrs. Peacock.
Yes, Mrs. Peacock.
And the young Mrs. Slocum.
She was hot.
And then there's old Mr. Grace and young Mr. Grace and Mr. Grace. The Grace brothers who run Grace Brothers department store.
I mean,
it's all three of them are pushing 100.
That's how I learned comedy, because I know British comedy, I know American comedy, I know Mexican comedy. It's okay. Again, this is why I hate you not liking Spanish, because literally you could experience so fucking much. Seriously, it's what do you call it? I used to watch what was it? Shrek. Okay, I watched it in English. Okay, then later on I went to Mexico. I was able to watch it in Spanish. It is so much funnier, man. Seriously.
But is it funnier because the jokes being the exact same sound better in Spanish? Or is it kind of like what they did with DBZ, where they rewrote the entire show so that it would make more sense to say it in Spanish?
Little by little. So some cultural things didn't work, so they would change the jokes up and make it so that it would still fit in the situation of the movie. So some jokes are the same, I'll admit. Others they completely changed because it didn't make sense.
Oh, so they brownwashed it.
Really, motherfucker? Calling it brownwashing?
I mean, it's just like whitewashing anime.
Okay, that was during the 90s, number one. Number two. Freaking, that's why you always buy uncensored or uncut versions. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about porn. Don't even. Number two. Number three. Okay, specifically. They do that with every single translation. I watched, what was it? Disney's translations of, what's it called? Something. Madrigal. What's the hell's the name of that movie?
Encanto?
That's it. Encanto. I watched the ones for...
Yeah, the Spanish on that one is good, but they definitely rewrote huge scenes of the movie.
I'll agree. Now, but my point is, though, the translations, as long as they make cultural sense, who fucking cares?
The people who are literalists, who are like, well, that's not the script that was written.
Okay, let me put it this way. If you're watching it subbed, fine. If you're watching it like, what do you call it? If you're literally watching a dub, fuck you people. No. A joke will not make sense if you're a literalist. Okay? But at the same time, some shit should not be in there. Like, that dub of, what the hell was the name of that anime?
Well, there's Beck, Mongolian Chop Squad. There are a few jokes in there, especially in the early episodes, where in the English with the R, the original Japanese version, like, there are jokes that work because the main character does not speak English at all, but some of his new friends, they speak it fluently because they've spent years in the United States. So there'll be scenes where they're speaking in English, and he's just like, yeah, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Or he'll try to, with his broken English, to join in on the conversation or join in with their joking, and it's awkward as shit because they're speaking a language he does not. When you watch the American English dub of that, they try to keep those jokes in, and they kind of change it to, because they're girls who are in their senior year of high school, he just doesn't relate to them because it's the same, they're older, so he's so much younger than he doesn't agree with, he doesn't see their point of view. But there's an entire scene where it's a point, there's a guy speaking English and he's harassing people outside the restaurant for messing with his car, and he goes outside and he's trying to calm them down, but they're both speaking fluent English, but they're like, no, I don't understand what you're saying, speak English.
No, exactly. That happened in Steins Gate too.
Yeah, things like that, they don't translate well when you try to keep that literalness in there.
No, I meant more along the lines of like, what do you call it? If Aguiaro calling her love, love interest in the story, like in My Girl is a Gal. What's it called? It's
she's supposed to call him a virgin because that's what they do
Oh,
supposedly.
so she calling him Verge?
No. She keeps calling him incel or some shit like that. Like, no, that is a Western cultural thing. Just call him a goddamn virgin.
Yeah, I mean, it only works because Gyaru culture is trying to be like California Valley Girl style aesthetics, stuff like that. So they're trying to use these English words, but they don't know what these English words mean. They think they have it off the wrong context.
But they don't say incel in Japan. They just go with virgin. That's my point. Don't say incel. That makes no fucking sense in context.
But a Gyaru girl would try to use the American word, and somebody, some point, some magazine or something that they read would have said that all incels are virgins, and so therefore incel means virgin.
That's not how it was used.
We know that's not how it's used, but that's how they were using it because they learned it from a faulty source.
No. My point is, in Japan, literally, I watched the sub. They said virgin. I watched the dub. Yes, I'm like that. I watch both, okay? Don't judge me.
I watch both too if I can. Like if I own a series on DVD or stuff, I watch both.
Thank you. And now I have to add freaking Mexican Spanish to the mix.
I do that too. If I have a DVD that has 5 or 6 languages on it, I will watch it in every single language.
I don't like watching them in German.
No, they get weird in German. Everything gets weird in German. German gets weird in German.
I don't disagree, but moving on. Like, my point is, though, in Japanese, they said virgin, okay? They literally said vagin. Yes. You understand what I'm saying, okay? And then English, they said incel. I'm like, really?
Well, that's because for the Japanese, they're trying to relate to the widest audience as possible. So they're going to use the proper word so that everyone watching it understands what the hell they're saying.
They're saying virgin, though. They
wanted to hire this voice actress who's actually a Gyaru girl who uses broken, shitty English to record the lines for someone who uses broken, shitty English.
Then why in English would they change it to fucking incel?
You know, that's like, why do we hire white voice actors to play people who speak Spanish?
When?
A lot of TV shows where they have the Spanish, like these characters are speaking in Spanish, and they're not Spanish-speaking people. They're just people who know how to speak Spanish. So what you hear them saying is they speak in a very proper way because that's what they were taught. They're not going to
say insult for virgin,
but they're not going to use slang or Westernizations or Americanizations because they weren't taught that. They don't know that because that's not their culture. That's not how they would do that. Like, it's one of those weird things. This is the thing where you're being the literalist on accident here. The voice actress who was playing the character who was supposed to be 14 was probably fucking 40, and she's never heard the word incel in her life before. So it said, oh yeah, he's a virgin, but you have to use a slang word for virgin. Had no basis for what the fuck a slang word that a younger person would use for virgin is, so just said virgin. Because it made the most sense for how she would speak.
Bruh,
so when they Americanized it, they took the time for, what would a Gyaru girl actually say here? And they would use the wrong fucking word because the magazines would tell them the wrong word.
Okay, look,
that's one of those things that comes down to, you have to go to like the Japanese bookstores and stuff and buy this dumb like fashion magazines and stuff that are in Japanese. Read those articles, and it's like a Cosmo article with all the wrong information.
You know what? Tamitsuwa. Or Kinokuniya? I think it's called.
Kinko. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Okay. Awesome store. Moving on. Back to the movie.
Basically, they have to fill a war game where the diesel sub has to go to
the Stingray has to first they have to infiltrate Charleston Harbor and fire a flare to show that they were there. And then after that, their task is to sneak their way into Norfolk Harbor and using live torpedoes destroy a dummy ship.
Now, they weren't supposed to be live torpedoes until Vice Admiral Dean Winslow actually said, you know what? I'm going to give you this, and then I can give you a command.
Yeah.
Probably because he wanted to stick it to Yancey, too.
Yeah, because they have a fun little half-assed rivalry.
Now, they start off by actually being able to go into the water. They dive a little bit, and we have a... What's the word? You have
they have a shakedown run.
That's it.
So
Shakedown. Thank you.
He wants to test the competency of Lake, who is his new dive officer, who has never actually been on a real submarine. She's only ever been in simulators. So he wants to see how she handles maneuvering the sub underwater and controlling a dive, instructing the rest of the crew on how to hit a certain depth. So he takes them to a normal, safe depth just to clear the port. And then once they're in open water, he goes, all right, let's take her down to 500, which is crush depth for that particular model of diesel submarine.
Unfortunately...
Which it's important to know what your crush depth is, so you know not to exceed it, so you don't turn into a billionaire's toothpaste.
I hate you. Okay.
You can hate me all you want, but those motherfuckers turned into tomato soup.
God damn.
They even brought their own can.
Stop being so descriptive.
But it's fun.
For you, not for people with sensitive goddamn stomachs. Pass me the Tums. Okay, seriously though, it is kind of funny the fact that these are people who are rich and that they pay $250 to this guy who literally
$250,000.
Oh, $250,000.
Yes, $250,000
each per passenger, and they were told to get into this too. Not that big. Sit Indian style, I think they said.
Yes, they had to sit what most people would know is crisscross applesauce.
That's it.
Style.
Thank you.
Like that's the only way to sit in this thing.
It is tight,
and it was controlled by just a generic. It's generic. It's a Logitech, a fucking gamepad, a Bluetooth gamepad that's your default Windows connectivity pad that will work for PlayStation, Xbox, all that. But it's all of its reviews are basically, yeah, it disconnects constantly. You're going to die in game. And also in real life.
Now, to be fair, though, the controller itself has been used in not just that controller. I mean, controllers in general has been used to control shit like submersibles.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the U.S. military uses actual Xbox 360 controllers to control drones. Yes. They have PlayStation controllers to control bomb disposing robots and things like that. Like we use game controllers because it's that thing that younger soldiers would be familiar with. And, they add a couple extra buttons or they get a custom one, but it'll be like, okay, this is a similar controller to what you would play a game with. So you already have the muscle memory of how to hold it, where your hand should be, so they don't have to look down and stare at the controller the whole time. So there's a functionality thing to using, a gaming controller for something like this. The thing is, you don't want to cheap out on it. You don't want to use one that every review for it says it randomly disconnects from its own dongle at a limited range of 2 feet or less. If you have to have this thing damn near touching the dongle to make it work, it is not a wireless controller. It is a piece of shit.
I don't disagree. Now,
here's a good example. I have an Xbox One. The Xbox One uses Bluetooth connectivity for its controllers. I play with my Xbox in a wooden cabinet with the doors fucking closed. And I have never had a connection issue with my controller. I had a cheap controller that I would randomly lose connection with in an open room sitting directly in front of the Xbox. What did that teach me? Spend the extra $20 and get the name brand controller.
I don't disagree. Now, the thing is, though, this fucker built this thing out of basically really, well, not bad materials, but...
Yeah, like the main body was made out of carbon fiber, which is, that's good, it's strong, it's good pressure rated. But then the retaining rings that held the viewport and the tail section were made out of titanium. And when titanium touches carbon fiber, it acts as a diode and an anode situation, and when you put it into salt water, they instantly start to corrode. It literally was dunking a corrosive into the water that makes it corrode, and hoping it wouldn't short out. And they have multiple TV interviews and recorded videos of him talking about, all the engineers say you can't build with carbon fiber and titanium, but yes, you can. I did it.
Yes. Basically, incompetence and death.
Yep. When you take shortcuts, you kill people. Luckily, in this case, it was himself.
And
so he won't make that so he can't make that mistake twice.
Okay, yes, fine. Moving on. Okay. Specifically, they went on a shakedown and then they started their mission. And they were already about to get caught by Michael. What the hell's his name again?
Shit, I spaced on it. William H. Macy.
That's it. William H. Macy.
Oh, now, I think his name is Knox.
Fine, Knox. Okay, Knox in the movie. They were about to get caught, and then they literally went down to the seafloor in order to be...
no,
invisible.
That's on their Norfolk run. This on Charleston run, they had bad weather, and there were a bunch of fishing trolleys up on the surface. So when the nuclear sub that is captained by Knox started to hear their engine signature, they rapidly surfaced, hung a work light off the top of their Periscope, and turned on all the running lights, and just started very badly singing Louie Louie.
Oh, we gotta go.
Yeah. So that when their sonar got close enough to them, it was like, when their Periscope does, like, oh, it's a fishing boat, and then they could hear them singing, and awesome, we just spent an hour chasing down a bunch of drunken fishermen. Turn the other way, go find where they went.
Personally, I prefer the Irish Drunken Sailor song.
Yeah, but see, American drunks would have a hard time getting through that.
True.
It's easy to go with a song that has the same two lyrics over and over again. Louie, Louie. Oh, we gotta go. That's it. That's all you need to know for that song. Yes, there are other words, but that's all you need to know. That's all Nitro knows. That's all he could do. He could do the
Now, in case you didn't know which one I was talking about What Will We Do with the Drunken Sailor? Look it up on YouTube.
What would you do with a drunken sailor? What would you do with a drunken sailor? What would you do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning.
Alright, back to the movie. Now, specifically, they were able to get through, and then they go into trying to get into Charleston, right? No, Norfolk.
Yeah, they got to Charleston, and they let off the flare while the two admirals are having dinner at a seaside cafe.
It was really,
the one,
really confident.
the one who hates Dodge is like, I think he's gonna fail. There's no way he could win. And then, ooh, look at the pretty fireworks. Those aren't fireworks. That's a flare. Like, no. They run to the port where there's a telescope so you could see the sea life and stuff. Which, a lot of port cafes and just nice dock areas on the East Coast and on the West Coast have things like that. Kind of fun. Put a quarter in, get a pretty view. So he goes and looks at it, and he can see the sub out in the water when they're waving the pirate flag, the skull and crossbones.
Now, after this, he gets orders. Go ahead.
Yeah, Graham calls and orders him to originally the war game was supposed to take place between X coordinates and Y coordinates, and it's supposed to be this big area, which is, a normal area. And then suddenly, after the Charleston run, Graham radios Dodge and tells him, "Oh yeah, now you're only confined to sectors A and sectors B." Like, yeah, that cuts the area in half. Are you defying my orders?
No.
It's bullshit. But he's literally changing the rules of the game as the game is going because he's losing.
Then Pascal unfortunately gets a stick up his ass and decides, you know what? We're not supposed to be doing this.
He's being a good officer. I mean, his commanding officer is technically disobeying a direct order by a higher ranking or superior officer.
Technically.
So he's technically within his rights to relieve him of his command. But since no one else on the crew agrees with him about it, he's technically inciting a mutiny. And he failed at it.
Mutiny on the Stingray. No, nah.
So they make him walk the plank.
They literally dress up as pirates. I don't know how the fuck Nitro did it. Like, he wore a bunch of grease or some shit, but he looked so fucking weird.
He put on a whole beard with grease paint or just grease. I mean, it is a diesel sub, so I'm sure there's soot and oil and shit all over the place because diesel engines are not clean.
Then they literally make Pascal walk the plank. They do the whole thing, talking like pirates and shit.
As soon as he walks the plank, he thinks he's about to fall into the ocean. And he falls into the fishing net of a fishing boat. As soon as he falls and he hits the net, Dodge just yells, "The U.S. Navy thanks you for your cooperation." And then you see the captain of the fishing boat just like, "Anytime." And then they start to take Pascal to port.
Except for Buckman, who literally has Pascal's entire effect and throws it on him and hits him in the nuts.
That is the panic.
That was the panic?
Yes, the panic is the asshole.
Okay.
The criminal. The admiral's son.
Oh, yes, we find out later in the movie, if you haven't seen this movie, it's been 20 years. Come on. Specifically, it's the son of Vice Admiral Dean Winslow.
Yes.
Then we have shenanigans more because...
all the shenanigans.
Now, specifically, technicality that he was talking about, they were under the sea, which is technically still safe in the area. Not really, it was out of the area, but as long as you're underneath, you're fine.
Yes and no. While, yes, Graham is a higher rank than Dodge, and he gave him a direct order, he had orders from a personal briefing before the war game started from Winslow that told him specifically to act like a pirate.
Very true.
So a higher ranking officer who outranks Graham gave him the orders of win. So he's following orders. He's just not following Graham's orders.
Very true. Okay, fine.
It's a gray area, but technically he was following the orders of the highest ranking officer to give him an order.
Now, they were trying to get into Norfolk. This time they have, what was it?
They have literally most of the Atlantic Defense Fleet there. So they had 5 destroyers, 2
frigates.
cruisers, 2 frigates, a cruiser, an aircraft carrier.
And like 2
they
planes.
had deep sea microphones, floating sonar buoys. They had airplanes dropping sonar buoys. They had search planes doing visual observation of the area, and then 1 super tanker.
So, yeah, Graham really didn't want him to win.
Yes. So, in a move of pure genius, but it's something you can only do with a skinny diesel World War II style sub, because they're about a quarter the size of the current Los Angeles or Seawolf class nuclear submarines, the ones we're more familiar with from movies like Hunt for Red October or K-19, things like that. is to hide from the sonar. At first, they run deep and go straight to the seafloor, and they hide there for a little bit. And that's where we get Buckman's fart scene and all of that, with them hiding and trying to be as quiet as possible. And then we get sonar pretending to be a whale walking back and forth across the sub so that it sounds like the sounds he's making, which are fairly accurate for a whale call. So it sounds like it's moving around. So the people on Knox's nuclear submarine, which Graham had taken control of for this particular part of the war game, they think it's just biologics or whales swimming around. So they start to go off. And as they pull away to go search a different area, who is it? What's his name? Dodge orders Lake to do a very dumb and impossible tactic, which is take the submarine directly between the screws or the propellers of the supertanker and to wear the supertanker like a top hat.
It's possible. Come on.
Oh, it's possible. It's just, you can't see where anything because you're underwater. You're going entirely by feel and sound.
Yeah.
And you're threading the needle through two things that are cavitating the water, trying not to get stuck in their prop wash, and then, you go right between the two of them. If you're off by a few feet, they have feet to work with, but you're underwater and you're dealing with things in the hundreds of feet wide and hundreds of feet long. So, the fact that you have 2 or 3 feet on either side to work with that's a very narrow margin for error. And they gotta go right between the two, because if they don't go through the cavitation area or the wake of the supertanker, they'd get caught because it wouldn't be hidden by the signature. Like if they had just run deep and then popped up directly under it, their own cavitation would give them away.
Now, after this brilliant maneuver, unfortunately the supertanker was not going into Norfolk.
No, it was coming out, so it was trying to get to deep water.
So they had to get away from it, and then they were spotted really quickly. And then they had the brilliant idea of mixing whiskey with the diesel.
Yeah, so instead of staying underwater where they have to go a little bit slower, they decide, fuck it, they're going to get us anyways. We're a World War II diesel sub. There's no way we can outrun them. We cannot outmaneuver them. We can't out-anything them except out-tactic them. But we can outrun them on the surface because we have an air-breathing engine. So they do a crash surface, an emergency blow the ballast tanks, get to the surface. They breach, and diesel subs don't breach in that night quite spectacular way that nuclear subs do. So you get to see both subs breach the water. The diesel kind of leaps out of the water, where the nuclear sub is fucking 20 feet up in the air and slams back down into the ground.
Reminds me of Free Willy.
Yep. Except this time they crushed the little boy. And they are just running full engines ahead. So Howard dumps an entire fifth of whiskey right into the fucking diesel mix in the engine, just to thin it out to give them some extra horsepower, which would work. It would make the fireballs a little bit more intense as the diesel is compressing. Like, the only thing that would give them even more horsepower would be if they had some canisters of propane aboard, because propane acts to diesel the way nitrous acts to regular gasoline.
Well, damn. Okay.
Yeah. So they get a few extra horsepower. They get a little bit of a lead on the Los Angeles class sub that's chasing them, but it's not a perfect lead. They've only got a few seconds head start on them, but it's just enough time for them to aim in the vague general direction that they need to hit the target, the dummy ship, fire both torpedoes and then accept the fact that they've been sunk. And they do, within the rules of the game. As soon as a firing solution has been confirmed, they accept, nope, you got us, because we would not be able to outmaneuver properly targeted and aimed modern torpedoes. But we fired ours before you fired yours. So look at the periscope at the target, and we win.
And then Yancey's like, no.
Yep.
From there, they get congratulations. They talk to Vice Admiral Winslow. He says, you actually made my boy respect the chain of command. And then Stepanek's the entire time like, but he still salutes his father.
Yep.
They find out that Dodge has a new command of a Beowulf class sub.
Seawolf. He's going to get, instead of a Los Angeles class, he's going to get the newest Seawolf class.
Seawolf.
Nuclear attack submarine. So, but they're also told he'd be getting a proper crew of competent individuals. And he says, I decline. My only reason I passed this is because of my crew of fuck-ups, so I need my crew of fuck-ups so I can fuck some more shit up. He doesn't use those words, but that's what he means.
I kind of would like to see what they would do with a proper sub, because freaking...
I would love a follow-up to this movie. Even if they made it now and set it modern right now, if they did a 20 years later with this crew of guys all about to hit retirement age...
That would be hilarious.
Like, we got one last mission. And they bring back the Stingray.
Oh, God. Wait, no. Old school fuck-ups versus new school fuck-ups. That would be hilarious.
Exactly. Oh, like Police Academy style.
Yes!
Well, it was like I think the second from last movie was a whole new class of just fuck-ups. And all the older, the people from the first couple movies are the instructors. Like, all right, let's see what happens when you teach a bunch of fuck-ups how to fuck up the right way.
All right. That was the end of the movie. Again, definitely worth watching.
What was not worth watching was a week's worth of news coverage about a bunch of billionaires just turning themselves into tomato paste. Yeah. When the same... I think the reason that everyone makes fun of this is, one, they're billionaires. They spent $250,000 each to be on the submarine. And when you do the math for that, that's something like 1% of 1% of their overall wealth. The equivalent to, say, somebody who makes $40,000 a year versus these people who make roughly $1 billion a year is... To us, it's a lot of money. They spent $250 million. To them, they spent what would be equivalent to us of $10. Now, there's a lot of times when I'm like, you know what? That's $10. It's not that bad. It's nothing. I'll spend $10. That's how billionaires think about spending $250,000.
I mean, in the meantime, what did happen was the FDA has approved synthetic meat from 2 different companies. So it is lab-grown meat of chickens, if I remember correctly. And they also had the Greek tragedy where 750 immigrants were trying to get to Greece, and then the Coast Guard of Greece was like, no, go away, bye.
And then their boat ended up sinking. And the big irony of this is a lot of the refugees that were on that boat, one of the billionaires who was on the sub that sank is a politician who, because of the things he voted for, is the reason refugees were fleeing that country. At least half the refugees on that boat were fleeing the country he came from.
Jesus Christ.
So a bunch of poor people died because of the dumb shit that this rich man enacted in his country to benefit rich people. and then did dumb rich people shit, and he also died. And it is a senseless death to have those refugees, those poor people, die by drowning. I think some of them were rescued, but a good chunk of them did die because their boat capsized and went down because there's too many people per boat. They're trying to escape. Versus this rich man who could have spent that $250,000 that he spent to help these people. Like, one of the people on the sub was a Pakistani businessman. Somebody did the math. He spent the equivalent of the yearly income of 150 families just to get on a submarine and die. The amount of money he spent is what 150 families in Pakistan make in a year.
Now, another thing though, of the survivors, only about 100 to 150 survived.
Yeah, so half. Because I think there's like 500 or 600 on that boat.
700.
700. So, yeah, so a little less than half the people on that boat survived. All because they were turned away from a port while trying to escape this horrible inequality. And that's the thing. The news wasn't talking about the refugees because they're poor people. The news is talking about these rich people. But the news is also making fun of it because a lot of the news commentators are from different sources. The good sources, the bad sources, Fox. Even they're commenting like, who's paying for all of this? Like, the Canadian Navy sent people out, the Greenland Navy, and the U.S. Coast Guard, and the U.S. Navy. They all sent vessels to help, plus the independent vessels that came to help, too. Like, all of those vessels are going to send bills to somebody. Those bills are going to go to the governments who are helping to find this sub, because the sub went down in international waters. Which means we, the taxpayer, those of us who are poor, are now going to be affected by the whims of a couple of billionaires. 4 rich people and a teenager who didn't want to be there in the first place died because they were rich and stupid.
Not unlike when the banks took the handouts back in 2008, and again in, what was it, 2020?
Something like that. Or even when the auto industry took all of its bailouts.
True.
They're like, too big to fail is not a thing. If you're going bankrupt, you deserve to fail. You deserve to die. Well, as a company. Like, you shouldn't just get free money. And then, we have infinite fundings to give to these multi-billion-dollar companies to help them not fail. But then, we can't pay for college for people in our own country because that's socialism. What about using government money to subsidize corporations? That's literal socialism. Actually, that's communism. The thing you're against.
So what you're saying is, the Red Party is literally red.
Yes. And they're
Think
too
about
stupid
that,
to
people.
realize it.
What?
And they're too stupid to realize it. Like, these are the people who always say, well, I don't want my tax money to pay for other people. Like, we can't use my tax money to pay for people at school. Your tax dollars go to the military budget. The military budget pays for college for, new recruits and stuff. So, like, we're not against using tax dollars to pay for people to go to college. It's just we have the requirement that they must serve in the military to do it, which is dumb. Like, it's socialist for tax dollars to pay for health care so everybody stays healthy in this country. It's socialist for tax dollars to pay for college and everything. When there's so many jobs that require a college degree, like, you want me to do a college job, then you should give me college. But what about using tax dollars to pay for the military in general? Using tax dollars to pay politicians to do their job, to pay for fire, pay for ambulances, to pay for police. That's social money going for systems. That is socialist things. Is we're taking people's money to pay for things for the greater good, the things that benefit all of society. It benefits society for people to get health care. It benefits society for people to get mental health care. It benefits society for more people to get an education.
You know what doesn't benefit society? Having the power to give yourself a raise. Because if I remember correctly, Congress has the power to do that to themselves, and they have done it every single year.
Yes, they do. They give themselves raises constantly. And then it's like, oh, well, we deserve that money because we sit in an office all day and we don't listen to anything you tell us to do. We do whatever the fuck we want. And some of us have been in office since before the Korean War.
Seriously, though.
There's a whole nother thing about like term limits. Term limits are important. We put term limits on presidents because we thought FDR was getting too uppity when he was on his 5th term.
Was it FDR?
Yeah, FDR was the last president to have a long term.
I swear I thought it was Grover Cleveland.
No, it was FDR. World War II.
Okay.
He had three or four terms. And when he was started campaigning for his 5th term, it's like, no, we can't have the same guy be president for so long. So we get 2 terms. You get total 8 years. You can't do 12 to 16 years. Well, the president can only be in there for 8 years. The people who serve on his cabinet should only be allowed to be there for 8 years. The people who serve in his Senate and his Congress should only be allowed to be there for 8 years. Because term limits. Again, we have sitting congressmen, sitting senators who have been in office for over 60 years. These are people who became senators at the youngest age they could become senators, which is like 23 years old. And then they are still senators now in their fucking 90s. They have great-great-grandchildren who are voting age, who are running for public office.
Except now they want to raise the voting age to 23, 24, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they want to raise the voting age to the youngest age of the adults in their own family so that they can keep voting for themselves. Because they know if other people who aren't related to them get a chance to vote, they'll vote them out.
Alright, I think we'll cut it off here. You know what? I think we should just start doing rants.
We should. I like doing rants.
Goddamn.
I'm a very political person. I have great opinions. But they're opinions. That's it. Don't take me seriously, people. I'm just some asshole with a big mouth.
And I am an asshole with a mouth. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.